People were laughing before she even reached the stage. Not loud at first, just small laughs. Whispers behind hands. Phones quietly recording her while she walked toward the spotlight in torn shoes and a faded gray jacket that looked too thin for winter. Emily Carter kept her eyes down. The theater lights felt too bright, too cold, too sharp. A security guard was already walking beside her before she even touched the microphone. And somehow, that hurt more than the laughter. At the back of the theater, someone muttered quietly, "She's not serious, right?" Another voice answered, "This is going online for sure." Emily heard every word, even the ones whispered softly, because people who grow up poor learn how to hear everything, especially shame. 3 hours earlier, Emily had still been sitting beside a fogged-up bus window with her hands wrapped around a paper cup of tea that had already gone cold. Rain rolled slowly down the glass. Outside, the city looked expensive. Bright signs, clean coats, busy people walking fast without looking at each other. Emily stared quietly at her reflection in the window. Her jacket sleeve had been stitched 3 different times by her grandfather. The thread colors did not even match anymore. She pulled the sleeve lower over her wrist. The bus heater barely worked, but she still felt warmer there than she did now inside the theater. Because on the bus, nobody was looking at her. Emily lived in a small apartment above an old repair shop on the edge of town. The stairs creaked every winter. The kitchen ceiling leaked whenever it rained hard. And every morning smelled faintly of machine oil from the garage downstairs. But it was home. Small, quiet, tired, just like the 2 people living inside it, Emily and her grandfather, Walter. Walter used to play piano in small bars many years ago before losing most of his eyesight. Now he repaired watches near the apartment window during the day. Tiny gears, tiny screws, tiny pieces of time resting in his shaking hands. At night, he listened to old music programs on a dusty radio beside his chair. Sometimes he asked Emily to sing softly while he worked. Not loudly, not like a performer, just softly enough to fill the silence inside the apartment. Emily always sang while washing dishes, never while anyone watched, because singing felt safe only when nobody could see her. At school, Emily stayed invisible. She sat near windows, ate lunch quietly, walked home alone. One afternoon, a teacher asked students to join a talent competition. Confident voices filled the room immediately. Emily looked down. "You sing, don't you?" the teacher asked. Her face went warm. "No," she whispered. That night, Walter asked her quietly, "Why did you lie?" Water ran in the sink. Emily didn't turn around. "I don't belong around people like that," she said. Walter smiled sadly. "Music doesn't belong to rich people." Silence stayed in the room after that. 2 weeks later, she filled out the form anyway, and kept it hidden like a secret she wasn't allowed to have. The night before the audition, she couldn't sleep. Rain tapped the window. Walter spoke without looking up from the radio. "You know what fear sounds like?" Emily stopped pacing. "It sounds loud before the first note." The next morning, he gave her something small. An old silver piano keychain. "I carried this before every performance," he said. Emily held it tightly. Cold metal. Steady weight. By the time she reached the theater, everything already felt too big. Too bright. Too perfect. Contestants laughed, practiced, filmed themselves. Emily stood at the back, holding number 84. Someone whispered about her clothes. She heard it anyway. At registration, the woman didn't smile properly. Just pointed. "Sit over there." Not cruel. Just empty. That emptiness stayed longer than cruelty would have. Hours passed. Names were called. People entered. People returned, changed. Emily waited, holding the key inside her pocket until it hurt. She almost left. More than once. But she stayed. Because someone at home was listening for her. Finally, her number was called. 84. She stood. Her legs felt weak. The hallway stretched too long. Curtains moved slightly in the air. A piano note echoed from inside the theater. Soft. Familiar. Home. She stopped for a second, then stepped forward anyway. The laughter came quickly. Not all at once. Slow. Growing. Security moved closer. She already knew what they would say about her online. Then she saw him. Daniel Reed. The blind judge. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't looking away. He was listening. Something about that made her stay still. A judge sighed. "We're done here." Security stepped closer. "Miss, please come with me." Laughter rose again. Emily lowered her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered, even though she had done nothing. She turned toward the exit. Then, "Stop!" The voice cut through everything. Silence hit the room instantly. Daniel Reed lifted one hand. "I haven't heard her voice yet." The guard stopped. Emily turned slowly. "Bring the microphone back." She walked back into the light. The theater held its breath. Her hands shook. Her eyes closed. She held the silver key in her pocket. And she sang. Slow, soft, intimate tone. Emily's first note barely rose above a whisper, but somehow it filled the entire theater. Not because it was loud, because it was honest. Silence. The audience stopped moving almost immediately. Phones lowered slowly. Whispers disappeared. Even the security guard beside the stage turned quietly toward her. Normal, controlled emotion. Emily kept her eyes closed. Her hands trembled around the microphone, but her voice stayed steady. Soft, fragile, real, slow, reflective. The song was simple. No dramatic performance. No perfect high notes. Just truth carried through music. Every word felt lived in, like someone who had spent years staying quiet. Pause. Emotional shift. The blind judge leaned forward slightly. Daniel Reed's expression changed slowly. Not surprise. Recognition. As if he understood loneliness the moment he heard it. Pause 2 seconds. Emily sang about small things. Cold mornings. Empty kitchens. Waiting rooms. Broken dreams nobody talks about. And somehow, those small things hurt the most. Because everyone in the theater recognized themselves in her voice. Soft emotional rise. A woman near the front row wiped her tears quietly. A teenage boy lowered his phone. One judge who laughed earlier looked down in shame. Pause. The room changed. Quieter. Softer. Human. Slow, intimate clarity. Emily continued singing with her eyes closed. Like she was afraid the moment would disappear if she looked at it directly. Her voice cracked once. Just slightly. But that imperfection pulled the audience closer. Because pain is never perfect. And real stories never are. Silence, deep emotional hold. For the first time in years, Emily stopped hiding herself. Transition pause. At a small apartment far away, Walter sat beside an old radio, hands folded tightly together. Static whispered between songs. Rain tapped softly on the window. Warm nostalgia. He listened. Every note. Every breath. Every silence. A small smile formed on his tired face. Soft whisper tone. She finally stopped hiding. Pause. Inside the theater, Emily reached the final verse. The audience stayed completely silent. No movement. No sound. Only her voice, floating through the lights. Slow tension build. Then, Daniel Reed slowly removed his dark glasses. The room tightened instantly. His cloudy eyes turned toward the stage. Even though he could not see her, somehow, he saw her more clearly than anyone else. Pause 2 seconds. Emily finished the final note. And silence followed. Not empty silence. Emotional silence. The kind that makes people remember what they buried inside themselves. Long pause. Emily lowered the microphone slowly. Her breath shook. For a moment, she thought nobody liked it. Normal, fragile tone. Then, one person stood up. An older woman. Quiet applause. Then another. Then another. And another. Slow emotional rise. Until the entire theater stood. Not cheering. Not shouting. Just standing. Clapping through tears. A standing ovation built from recognition, not performance. Pause. Emily stared at them. Confused. Because people like her expect rejection first. Soft reflection. One judge cleared his throat. I think we judged too quickly. Silence answered him. Because truth was already in the room. Pause. Daniel Reed lifted the microphone. Calm voice. The world teaches us to notice appearances first. Clothes. Shoes. Money. Pause 2 seconds. But music. He paused gently. Music notices pain first. Silence hold. Several people lowered their heads. Some wiped tears. Emily's eyes filled, but not from shame anymore. From relief. Slow emotional landing. I lost my eyesight many years ago. The theater stayed still. And after that, he paused. I learned something important. Soft focus. People reveal themselves most honestly when nobody is looking at them. Normal, calm tone. The audience applauded again. But softer now. Respectful. Changed. Pause. Backstage cameras shifted. Not to her clothes, but to her face. Silence. For the first time, she was being seen correctly. Slow emotional resolution. After the performance, people avoided her eyes. Not cruelty. Guilt. One girl approached. You were amazing. Emily nodded. But neither knew what to say. Because healing doesn't speak immediately. Pause 2 seconds. Later that night, the video spread online. Millions watched her moment of humiliation turn into truth. Millions heard the line. I haven't heard her voice yet. Soft, reflective tone. People didn't react with drama. They reacted with honesty. Regret. Memory. Recognition. Slow fade. Emily rode the bus home. Rain on glass. City lights blurred. Everything felt different. Not fixed. Just lighter. Pause. She looked at her reflection. For the first time, she didn't look away. Silence. Because healing begins quietly. Fade out.